Hey guys, it's me Mr. 250 and welcome back to Higurashi. So if you remember last time, I was planning on finishing this set and releasing it all at once. Unfortunately I had some surgery on my mouth a couple days ago and I didn't know how long it was going to take to recover from it. I'm not really fully recovered, but I think I can probably finish this set now. But I didn't want to just not put it out when I had a whole bunch of it done, just not edited. So I edited it all and uploaded it all. But now we're going to finish it, and hopefully it's not too long. If it is too long, I may break it up a little bit more. I'm hoping it's not more than like an hour and a half. So I think it's about as long as I can go right now. So anyway, we were... right, the last thing was Akasaka had a huge battle with Okonagi. And in one, and I don't think anything else has happened since then. We got back to the basement, of course. But I think they're still in that little, escape tunnel from the big well or something. In the basement, the club members were talking about their grand counterattack. Rika was a little disappointed that she couldn't have joined them. But she was happy that Akasaka told her what she had been waiting to hear. Rika told them about how heroic he had been, and he got a little embarrassed. Kasai was doing alright, but Shion wasn't doing too well. Of course it wasn't life-threatening, but she couldn't hear that well in her left ear, possibly due to being so close to an explosion. Okay, so I guess presumably Akasaka just defeated the entire group. And they all... Well, no, they ran away, right? I think, yeah, they ran away. That's right. Okay. To test her hearing, Mion went around Shion's left side and whispered some dirty words. She seemed to be able to hear them fairly well. Of course, she might have been hearing through her right ear, though. Shion decided to lie down on the tatami mattress in the torture room, while Irie kept an eye on her. Mion was very worried, but Shion told her that she was okay, and forced her to go ahead with the next operation. Mion complained that Shion didn't understand her feelings. Now they would have to come up with an idea to rescue Tomitake from the clinic. They had Akasaka and Kasai on their side, both of whom were used to battles. Also, they had Irie, who knew about the secret basement of the clinic. They would have to get moving quickly, but they had to at least have a plan. It was almost 10:30 a.m. Because of what they had gone through, they were exhausted, and it felt like it was almost evening. But if they were at school, it would only be the second or third period. They had to pull themselves together. They had to regain their fighting spirit. Irie checked Shion's left ear with a penlight.
耳鼻科の先生でないとわかりませんが、運が悪ければ鼓膜が破れている可能性もあります。頭痛やめまいはありますか？
いいえ、全然へっちゃらです。
Irie wet his handkerchief and wiped Shion's face gently.
驚いてます？ひなみ沢ファイターズのマネージャーに銃撃戦ができて。
ええ、驚いています。あなたが死ぬ気だったとは。前原さんに聞きましたよ。
うわ、ああいう言葉ってその場ではかっこいいけど、生き残っちゃうとめちゃくちゃ恥ずかしいですね。やだな。
If something happens to you and I live, my sister will never forgive me for that. I don't have my loved one anymore, but Sis does.
茶化しっこなしです。あなたの思い人というのは、サトシ君のことですね。
さあ、どうでしょうね。今頃どこにいるやら。生きてるのか死んでるのかもわかりませんけど。
生きています。
え？
Chion's thoughts stopped in their tracks. when Irie answered immediately.
北条聡君は生きています。彼は去年のあの日、不幸な心労がたたり、末期の発症を迎えてしまったんです。
Mion and the other club members had already told Shion about the current situation, so she kind of understood what he meant.
私は聡子ちゃんと同じ薬で治療できると思いました。ですが、聡子ちゃんが治療できたのは極めて幸運なケースだったようで、聡君の治療は困難を極めました。そしてその治療は今も続いているのです。
聡君、聡君、生きてるの？
今まで話せなくてすみません。聡君は視覚核にいます。
Shion and Irie returned from the torture room. Shion looked very serious, as if she had gained the determination to fight. Keiichi and the others were just talking about how the enemy found where they were.
入江先生の着衣に発信機か何かがつけられていることは考えられませんか？
Maybe. Man, Akasaka's really smart.
先生の私服ではなく、診療所で持たされるものや着せられるものにです。
だとすると、この白衣くらいですが。
監督、ちょっとボディチェックします。
I mean, they're underground right now, so they probably can't see where he's at, but I don't know. I was actually thinking about that. I was like, how are their communication devices? Presumably, you know, walkie-talkies or cell phones or something. I guess they weren't cell phones at this time. I don't know, there weren't. But there would have been walkie-talkies and some sort of short-range communication method. How would they have worked underground? Because as far as I understand, you know, thick earth like this completely blocks radio waves. But then I was thinking, well, maybe they have some sort of like, they have so many men, you know, right? They might like leave men behind with broadcasting devices, or maybe they even ran like a wire down the whole, you know, tunnel of the cave or something. I don't know. Shion checked Irie over like an inspector at an airport. Then she found a little button on the backside of his collar. It was a little round button. There was no reason why a button like this would be on the back of the collar.
こいつが発信機でしょう。連中はこいつを信頼してるから、直接尾行しなくてもここを突き止められたんです。やられたわ。となりゃ、このボタンがある限り陽動作戦が可能になるってことだね。
ボタンを持ったおとり隊が敵をおびき寄せ、その隙に手薄の診療所を襲い、富武さんを助け出す。それが最善でしょう。
となれば、そのおとり隊が陽動するには、私の裏山が一番でございますわね。
そうだな。あそこなら敵を引っ張り回せるぜ。しかもあれだけの山だからな。敵も相当の手勢を集めるだろう。その分、診療所がガラ空きになる。
読み切れないのは、どの程度敵が診療所に残るかだ。診療所には敵にとっても重要な富武氏がいる。相応の守備を起こすだろう。
となれば、富武より美味しい餌をおとりと一緒にするのがいいのです。大丈夫ですか、リカ？はいです。みんなと一緒で貞子の裏山なら絶対に捕まりませんです。
裏山に精通してるのはこの中では部活メンバーだけだね。おとりは部活メンバーが引き
Yes,
受け
let's
る
just send a bunch of kids out there, so that way they'll get murdered.
そうだね。その間に大人部隊は診療所を奇襲。翔さんは大丈夫？
赤坂さんのお目こぼしがあれば、警察の方と聞いておりますので。
Kasai spoke while loading his shotgun.
今はオフですので。
Akasaka replied while checking an automatic pistol. He hadn't used this particular gun before, but he was used to handling guns. I mean, his body is a weapon, basically. He was prepared to fire too. Yuri tried to memorize how to remove the safety, but he looked nervous.
赤坂さんは機関銃の経験は？
ありません。拳銃だけです。
では慣れたものがよろしいでしょう。弾倉は十分に。弾詰まりに備え、同じ銃をもう一丁。
笠井さんは、これはショットガンですか？
奇数発目はスラッグ弾です。面制圧も壁抜きもできます。
おお、散弾銃の立つって通り名は聞いてたけど、本当にショットガン使いなんですね。
散弾銃は恐ろしい武器です。ですから相手に当てずとも降伏させることもできます。あと皆さん、防弾ベストがありますので着てください。
Kesai sounded very dependable, but at the same time he reminded everyone that this operation would be a very dangerous one. It wasn't a simple fist fight. Even a veteran soldier can die in a gun battle. There's always a chance of death, regardless of how well trained you are. In fact, Kesai and Akasaka were the only people who could be depended upon. Kesai talked Irie out of carrying a gun, because it might be dangerous for him to have one. Someone could get injured by friendly fire. Mion suggested that maybe there should be more people on the team, but both Kesai and Akasaka refused, because those who couldn't even handle guns at all might end up as dead weight.
なら私が行くしかないですね。第一、火力が足りなさすぎです。ファイヤーサポートに私がイングラムでも持ってきましょう。
でもシオン、お前耳大丈夫なのかよ？
ええ、もう治っちゃいました。ケロッとね。ご心配かけてすみませんでした。シオン、今私が何て言ったか聞いてた？え？あ、嫌だな。聞こえてましたよ。
Mion had tricked her. Mion didn't say anything. Shion still couldn't hear out of her left ear.
シオン、危険だよ。正直に言っておとりに混じるのも危険だと思ってる。シオンはどこかに身を隠してて。おねえ、聞いて。私どうしても診療所に行かなければならない。
My reason is love.
でもそれを今話したら里子まで来ると言い出す。それはダメ。こっちは室内戦、向こうも撃ってくる。それって。
Mion sensed it. She sensed the reason why Shion had to go to the clinic. That was why she didn't say anything more. If she was in Shion's position, she would go even if neither of her ears could hear.
危険ですわよ、シオンさん。
It's a good thing Satoko didn't pick up on that.
考え直してくださいまし。
里子、シオンは救出隊に回る。里子はおとり隊のエースなんだよ。自分の仕事に専念して。しーちゃん、レナさんならわかるよね。私が死ぬ気じゃないってこともね。
うん、わかってる。こういう時の女の子ってね、絶対に死なないから。
ですよね。殺されたって死ぬもんか。
Okay, Shion and Rina gave each other a high five.
決まったようですね。ではもう動き始めましょうです。 C、 ボタンをこっちで預かるです。
はい、これ頑張ってね、リカちゃま。
C も頑張って。 C が強く強く信じてきた奇跡だから。だからきっとこれは C のために神様が微笑んでくれたチャンスなのです。
信じなかった日もあった気がする。それを誰かに諭された日もあった気がする。信じ続けるって大変なことだよね。
でもあなたは信じ続けました。信じなかったことを悔い信じました。だから訪れた今日をどうか大切に。今日を呼び寄せたあなたの強い意志の前に、目の前の苦難はもはや苦難ではない。
あんた、お姉の新しい友達ですか？名前は知らないけど、ありがとう。うまくいきそうな気がします。
うまくいきますですよ。お社様のお墨付きなのです。
The mountain dogs had retreated and reorganized their units. They were now ready to attack again. Takano was furious at them for not being able to bring R back to the clinic, even though they had her in their hands. She gave an order to capture her with all the mountain dogs' forces put together. Their vehicles were at the clinic and they were all standing by for the order to attack. Takano wasn't the only one who was furious. Okonagi was as angry as her. That rookie policeman from 5 years ago had grown. He even made Okonagi yield. He couldn't accept that he was defeated, so he was bent on revenge. The reason why the order to attack was held off was because the signal from the transmission device in Irie was momentarily interrupted. They interpreted it to mean that Irie had gone even further down into the basement. The mountain dogs assumed that the club members would go even further underground and try to escape by using some kind of secret passage. That passageway couldn't be that long. They'd have to come up to the surface eventually. The mountain dogs were planning to catch them as soon as they surfaced. The villagers were too busy with finishing setup for the festival, so they had no idea what was going on. By this time, the mountain dogs had shut down the telephone network. They were afraid the club members would call the police. The only way into the town was being watched by the blockade unit, so the club members couldn't escape that way. R and her friends had to come up to the surface. They couldn't be thinking of staying underground until things settled down. Their lifeline, Tomitake, was in captivity. They couldn't be stupid enough to think of attacking the clinic to rescue him. More than likely, they would try to escape from the village on foot. They would probably call the police to help them. The patrol unit had several cars driving around the village, their eyes peeled for the signal of the transmitter or those on the run. It was time to wait patiently. The battle had returned to the starting point, and the balance of power was even again.
ひばりつより定時連絡異常なし。いつまでも息を潜められるわけはねえんだ。じれずに待て。絶
Are
対
you
に。
sure? Like, what's the reasoning behind them not staying underground? I know they feel trapped, so they probably want to leave, but are you sure that they couldn't just stay?
ところでうちのお姫様はどうした？富武兄に尋問中です。どうやら説得を試みているようです。こうなっちまったら穏便に済ませるには監査役を抱き込むほかねえからな。生かして捕らえたのはでかかったぜ。お姫様はいねえし、東京からの電話もねえ。ようやく落ち着いて冷房を浴びられるってもんだな。隊長、東京から無線です。野村さんからサンサ宛てでなく隊長宛てです。やれやれ、電話がダメなら無線かよ。さて、東京の女王様がこの後に及んで俺に何のお話ですかね。山犬のおこのぎです。どうぞ。
Tomitake was being held in a small meeting room. He was shoved under a desk. He was restrained so tightly that he couldn't even turn around. Takano was sitting in a chair next to the table, staring at a whiteboard. It outlined the research plan that was to be shut down. But Takano wasn't really reading it. She was just staring. Neither of them said a thing. Silence filled the meeting room.
もうすぐ11時ね。
本当に今日は長い日。あんなにも早朝に起こされてから、まだ半日も経たないのね。
Tomitake says nothing because presumably he's been gagged. Or, he didn't reply.
ジローさん、今からでも私に協力してはくださらない？山犬なんかいらない。あなたさえいてくれればいいわ。
Whoa, Takano.
山犬には
Oh,
私の心を慰めることなんかできない。あなたの一見無神経な心遣いでしか慰められないって。この二郎さんは分かってて私に無神経に接してくれてたのよね。変に同情しても何の役にも立たないなら、せめて私の心を気分転換で楽にさせてあげようと思って。そう思ってあんなに無神経を装ってでも私を楽しませてくれたのよね。
And once again, Tomitake says nothing.
鷹の三頭陸佐として話してるんじゃない。鷹の御代として二郎さんに話してるの。それでも返事をしてはくれないの。
捕虜は名前と階級と認識番号しか喋っちゃいけないことになってるんでね。
Takano hung her head.
その手錠の鍵、ごめんなさい。
いいよ。それを求めたわけじゃないさ。
コーヒー飲む？
遠慮するよ。この状態でトイレの世話になりたくないからね。
It was hardly a conversation, but Takano was happy that Tomitake had finally replied. However, that wouldn't solve any of their problems.
僕を殺すしかないならそれも構わないさ。捕らえられた時にすでにその覚悟はできてる。
そうね。私も二郎さんを今夜殺すつもりだったから。あなたにその覚悟があって。
ならよかったよ。この覚悟が無駄にならなくて済む。
ねえ、死にたくないとは思わないの？あなたが私の味方になると誓ってくれれば、私はあなたを死なせずに済むの。上はあなたを生かす価値はないって言ってるけど、そこは私が何とかするから。
I don't know about that. That sounds pretty suspicious to me.
上は誰だい？
知らないわ。私と接触するエージェントは野村と名乗ってるけど、どうせ私も素性はよく知らないわ。
でも手を組む相手に足ると思う程度には話をしたんだろ。
数度ね、おしゃべりをしただけよ。今にして思うと私を利用したいという魂胆が見え見えだった。でもなぜかあの時は彼女だけが私のことを理解してくれるってそう思ったのよ。
わかるよ。君に誰かの助けが必要な時期があったことは知っている。その時君のそばにいるのが僕でありたかった。
そうね。そこにいたのが二郎さんだったらどんなに良かったことか。
まだ誰も死んでない。
これから殺すわ。
東京には君の黒幕もいればそれと対立する黒幕もいるが、ほとんどの上層部は今回の件をうやむやにして終わらせたいと思っているはずだ。高野さんはもう全てが手遅れだと思っているだろうけど、まだなんとかなるんだ。まだ取り返しがつく。なかったことにできる。
そうして祖父が築き上げたひなみ沢症候群の研究もなかったことになるのね。
高野さん、君は何がどうなれば満足だったんだい。
Tikano closed her eyes for a bit while she came up with an answer. Her grandfather's research had been insulted. She wanted those with higher positions of authority to take it seriously. Nomura could make that happen. When the final operation was enacted, the higher-ups of the country would have to read the article, and they would have to believe what's in it. They will authorize the execution of the emergency manual. And yes, that would create an irreversible disaster. But at the same time, the disaster would prove that her grandfather's article had merit.
それで、君は満足なったね。
ええ、満足よ。それが高野美代の生を受けた理由だから。
前に聞いたね。なら君はこの作戦が終わったら消えてしまうわけだね。高野美代の目的は達せられ、地上からなくなり、君は本当の君に戻るんだ。田無美代子。それが本当の君の名前のはず。
How long had it been since she heard that name? Takano closed her eyes slightly.
そうね。私はもうすぐ田無美代子に帰るのね。
田無美代子という少女は両親を失って施設に送られた。そしてそこで不幸のどん底に落ちて死んだ。君はそう言ったね。
ええ、言ったわ。私はあの日のあの暗闇の中に戻らなければならない。二郎さんは経験ある？
Takano told Tomitake about her horrible experiences, which were simply unimaginable for normal people.
もう一度あそこに戻って。今度はおじいちゃんに助けられずに死ぬの。そうすれば私はここにいない。私がいなければ入江期間もなく、こんな妙な運命の行き止まりに迷い込むこともなかった。
君は死ぬ気だね。
作戦が終わったらいろいろとご褒美があることになってるけど、あまり信じてない。ある日突然ホームでドンと突き落とされるんじゃないかしら。
君には心を許せる味方はいないのか？
クライアントは所詮クライアント、味方じゃないわね。でも山犬は味方よ。彼らが私の靴を舐めたくなるくらいの金を弾んでやったからね。
でも心は許せないんだろ。
味方は味方よ。あなたを捕らえ、今から R たちも捕らえようとしている。私の役に立ってくれてるわ。
それは今の君に必要な味方じゃない。
そうね。今の私に必要な味方じゃない。
Takano paused. She paused because Tomitake had just said exactly what she had been thinking. Since the day Tomitake disappeared, she had been feeling restless. Takano had to admit that she needed Tomitake.
二郎さん、山犬は何億円かのお金で転んでくれたわ。まだ私の手元には1億ちょっと残ってる。あなたはいくら払えば転んでくれるの？
君が一番欲しいものがいくらで買えるかを考えてみるといい。
こんな時にキザな例えだこと。お金では買えないって言わせたいのね。
諦めるんだ。山犬は飼いならせても僕は飼いならせない。
それを転ばせたいと言ってるの？あなたが望むならお金だけじゃない、何でも与えるわ。私の髪の毛一本からつま先の先端まであなたのものにしていい。靴を舐めろと言うなら今この場で舐めてもいいわ。それでもまだ足りない。
Tomitake didn't reply. It was an affirmation by silence, but a signal to Takano that he had already told her everything he meant to say, in the most saddening form of silence for her.
あなたより毎朝早く起きて朝食を作るわ。待ち合わせ場所には必ずあなたより先に来る。二度とあなたを待たせて試すような真似をしない。それでもダメなの、二郎さん。
Tomitake didn't say a word. He couldn't see her face under the desk, but he could sense it. This wasn't the time to say anything to her. Remaining silent was the only thing he could do. Suddenly, the phone rang. Takano sniffled once and picked it up.
高野よ。そう。わかったわ。今すぐ行くわ。
Takano stood up as she put down the phone.
R が発見されたわ。入江の発信機の反応も一緒。街道が封鎖されていることを知ってて、山中を徒歩で脱出するつもりのようね。山狩りには手こずりそうだけど、人目がないのは私たちに好都合だわ。じゃあね、二郎さん。なんとなく、これがあなたとできた最後のおしゃべりになるような気がする。最後に、あなたから言葉がもらえなくて、残念よ。
And still, Tomitake stayed silent. Takano ran out of the room. She didn't look like she was hurrying back to work.